Welcome back, Alpha Hunters. Hopefully, you had a very fantastic week. The markets are closed for the week of May the 10th. So let's go through what went on this week. Now, last Friday, we had a pretty good gap up, and it was kind of interesting. Was that going to continue into this week? And, well, as you can see by the image in front of you, yes, we did continue that. We had a nice little gap up here on Monday and just kind of slowly grinded out, especially right there towards the end of the day, pretty much the whole day. Looking pretty good there on Monday. Tuesday, a little bit of a gap up and kind of mostly just sideways from there. Went a little bit higher, but came back down. And that was about it. I mean, we didn't really do a whole lot there on Tuesday intraday. Wednesday had a little bit of a gap down, traded back higher, got to positive, slight pullback, and then kind of just bounced a little bit as we went into the close. Nothing crazy. Thursday, kind of a light gap day. Nothing crazy kind of going on. Nice little push here to start the day. A little bit of a pullback into the moving averages and just slowly pushed higher as we went into the end of the day. Friday, same kind of deal, kind of gapped up. Had a nice little pullback though. Nice little pullback here. A little bit of a gap up. Several winning days in a row. Profit takers came in on the gap up. So we pulled back, got neutral, and kind of slowly based for the rest of the day. Not too much kind of went on there for most of the day. Most of the activity was there really in the first hour and a half of the day or so, 2 hours. So the stock market was kind of just doing its thing on the railroad tracks, get out of my way. I'm just going to keep going higher. And I mean, we kind of knew that going into this week. It was going to be a light week as far as economic data. We really didn't get much in the way of economic data. Some of the economic data we did get was a little bit on the lighter side. As far as like jobs data, came in a little under. So we had a little bit of drop on yields. We'll take a look at that. So that was a little bit of the positivity on the market side. Yields came down a little bit. Stock market kind of continued higher. All right, now take a look here at sector rotation for the week. And this is probably a little bit more of the telling side of what was going on this week. Discretionaries, energies, and tech all underperformed for the week. Okay, interesting. We kind of knew, coming off of tech earnings over the previous like 2-3 weeks, they might need a little rest time. Get that. What was really kind of interesting was the rotation to like safer areas, utilities. Look at that rotation to utility, man. So we've seen a few days like that over the past 2 weeks where utilities are doing pretty well. But I mean, utilities did really pretty well for the second half of the week, Wednesday on. Financials also did pretty well for the week. Materials, industrials, staples, real estate, healthcare, communications all outperformed there on the week. All right, taking a look at the VIX. Well, the VIX just continued to drop off this week. So after that, kind of first half of April kind of pump there on the VIX. We haven't really done a whole lot. This is kind of just where we are. We're back down to those lows that we were kind of at early in December, I guess, January, kind of getting back down, I guess, maybe to December lows. But yeah, I mean, this is kind of where we are on the VIX. We've just seen a lot of volatility get crushed off here. We're not even back to all-time highs yet, but on the S&P 500, we're getting close, especially with the moves this week. But VIX dropping off pretty sharply this week and continuing that drop off. All right, take a look at the DXY, the dollar index. We know last week we had a pretty good drop off. We had a pretty good bounce. What was really kind of interesting this week was, well, we had a pretty good base kind of at the beginning or end of the previous week, but the beginning of last week, end of the previous week, kind of right here towards the end of April. And we broke that down, and that was kind of the interesting thing. It was what was going to happen if we did bounce into that area. Was this the pullback and we were going to bounce? And that still might be the question. But for now, we did bounce to that level right here on these lows. And that is where we're kind of rejected there Wednesday and Thursday. So it's going to be an interesting one. Probably going to get determined early this next week. We are going to get inflation data. So that will probably be the biggest determinant, especially for the dollar yields market, probably this next week. So that'll be the thing to watch. But anyways, dollar, kind of an interesting spot. You could be playing this pullback into these previous highs off the 50, or you're playing it probably in the bearish direction off this rejection from this previous low here at the end of April. GLD, the gold trust. All right. Nice bounce this week. Nice bounce. We had a nice little gap up Monday, a little bit of a flag pattern there Tuesday, Wednesday, and then continue that push Wednesday and Thursday. Looking pretty good. Kind of got a little inverse head and shoulders action kind of going on here over the past half a month, past couple of weeks. So it looks pretty good there on gold. And I would just continue to be buyers of any dips that kind of come our way. Take a look at yields, 10-year yield. Yeah, we continued a little bit of that drop that we had going at the end of last week. Continue that this week. We had a nice little bullish engulfing on Wednesday, bearish engulfing on Thursday, bullish engulfing kind of there on Friday, almost quite on the body. It's pretty close. Now, it's this is kind of like the same thing with the dollar. We did have a pretty good drop off there last week. So are we going to drop off and roll over? We're just basing. It's going a little side step pattern here, and then we're going to roll over. Or are we, did we pull back and work base, and now we're going to push? Kind of like, maybe we've done, a couple times before now. The market continues to go bullish in these kind of uptrending, zigzag, flowy type pattern on yields. And eventually, if that continues to happen, the market won't be bullish. And it might be just one that if we continue to push up here on yields, if we do base here this week and we push up this next week with inflation data maybe not coming in all that greater or higher inflation, inflation continues to go higher, maybe we will start to see the market take notice of yields again. That'll be an interesting one, so we'll talk a little bit more about that at the game plan. 10 and 2 inversion. All right, not really doing too much here towards the end of the week, but 10 and 2 inversion definitely dropped off Monday, Tuesday. Might just be a little bit of a false breakout here over the past couple weeks. Maybe we just come back down to the lows. Anyways, just know that we're no longer on the upswing, so it'll probably take a little bit longer to figure some things out. HYG, high yield corporate bonds here. Nice little pullback this week, right into the moving averages. Going to be really interesting to see what happens this next week. Was the start of May, the start of the bullish direction. This is the flag pattern of the moving averages, the support, and then we're going to push higher. Or was this kind of the bounce into some kind of previous, a little bit higher into the previous kind of support and resistance areas, and then maybe we're going to roll over now. We'll see. That gives a little bit better picture on the LQD and the TLT. The LQD, you very clearly see that we did break these support levels that we had back here back in mid-April, and then we kind of bounced to those levels here earlier this week, at the end of last week, earlier this week, and we kind of rejected off of those levels. So are we going to bounce or are we going to roll over? That's kind of the spot where you're at. You can play it, you can definitely play it either way. There's no wrong way to be playing those. It's just make sure you have your stop loss in case the market just picks one specific direction. TLT though, didn't quite get back to this low that we had back in kind of late February, and it's kind of sandwiched in between these moving averages. Same kind of deal. I mean, we could be on a new upswing. This could have just been a retest into the 50 EMA here. Maybe we roll over. So yeah, you're just gonna have to have your stop losses set, whichever way you're kind of playing it, whether it's bullish or bearish. All right, take a look here at the RSP. I'm gonna go. This is gonna be kind of a shorter video. There wasn't a lot of economic data, so there wasn't too much in the way of that kind of stuff to talk about. Just be aware that we are going to get inflation data and stuff like that this next week. And specifically, we are going to actually get PPI Tuesday morning, and then Wednesday morning, we're going to get CPI. So if, everybody's wanting inflation to be coming down, which is kind of what yields indicated like last week. Oh, yeah, inflation's going to be coming down, and that wasn't really any indication by inflation data. If we get higher inflation again, then I would expect yields to be rising again. Market will probably take notice. Probably see some choppiness out there. So just be mindful of like Tuesday, Wednesday. So if you need to adjust positions or de-risk as we go into inflation data, maybe Monday or Tuesday, be mindful of that. RSP though, you can see where we are. Well, we are kind of back above those previous all-time highs back in 2022. Not quite back up to the all-time highs here that we put in towards the end of March. But yeah, I mean, we're up there. We had a nice little pullback there in the kind of, beginning of April, and see what happens as we go into next week, especially with inflation data. The DIA, the Dow Jones Industrial Average, looking pretty good here. Nice little double top that we did have back towards the second half of March. Nice little pullback, nice little bounce here. DIA did actually very well this week compared to especially the other 4 that I have on my list here that I keep track of, did very well. The IWM, well, IWM did not have a great day on Friday. Still struggles to kind of get through this level. Man, just still struggles to get through this 205, 206 level. The 2 times I guess it's kind of done it was back in March, and it did it very quickly towards the beginning, broke down. And then it kind of did it towards the end and then broke down in April. So I want to say it's making higher lows and higher highs, and maybe it'll continue to go, but it just, man, it's just so ugly. Inflation is not like, these perceived stocks' best friend. And then what about the Qs? Well, the Qs, we know that big tech had earnings over the 2 previous weeks, not this past week, really. And, the Qs did pretty well, I mean, big tech earnings, they did pretty well. And they did pretty good of stopping the market from dropping off like it was at the beginning in April. And that being said, they didn't really do that well this week. It might have just been a little bit of exhaustion on a lot of those names that kind of hold up a lot of the weight. Be curious to see what starts to happen if yields start to rise early this next week, especially Tuesday and Wednesday with inflation data. What's going to happen with stocks? If we start to grind higher on yields and the market is grinding higher on the Qs and the SPY, and we make new all-time highs, I would be much more willing to say I would be closing bullish positions. I would be much more willing to be bearish. Start to look to be bearish. Maybe not just right away, but start to look to be bearish. Look for those signs of, okay, we're topping and we're starting to like roll over, that kind of stuff. And that'll probably take shape over like a couple of weeks. I wouldn't expect it to happen in like 1 day or 2 days. So that would be what I'm looking for anyways. SPY really close back up to the all-time highs that we had there at the end of March, beginning of April. So yeah, that's what I'll be looking for. Yields from inflation data. And if inflation data comes in a pretty light, then yeah, I mean, I would expect the market to probably do pretty good. Anyways, Outfounders, have a great weekend and take care.